Um, Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Charity Counts. I'm the Executive Director of the Association of Midwest Museums. For those who are listening today but cannot see me, I'd like to offer a visual description. I'm a fair-skinned white woman with dark hair and dark eyes. Today, I'm wearing my red Proud Museum Person t-shirt and a black blazer. And I'm joining you from my home office where I have deep blue walls and white doors and a painting of a woman with her head in her hand. Thank you for joining us for today's Lunchtime Leadership Chat with a focus on virtual fundraisers. This webinar was organized by and in collaboration with and supported by our friends at Artwork Archive. Artwork Archive provides artists, collectors, and museums easy-to-use tools to manage their artwork, their collections, their careers, and their virtual exhibitions. This session will include a presentation about our featured case studies and best practices from our panelists, followed by moderated discussion. We invite you to react, comment, ask questions using the Zoom chat or Q&A features of Zoom. We will fold your questions into the moderated discussion as soon as we are able to as we go along. We also, if you haven't noticed, have an ASL interpreter here with us today for anyone who might need this service live, but also for those who are watching the recording later. We've also enabled Zoom's live transcription feature. You can turn this on or off by clicking the CC button in your menu or the three dots where you can open up additional options and controls for Zoom. Before we begin our program, I would like to take a moment to redirect our attention to the land we each occupy at this moment and honor the Indigenous peoples who have called it home. Because I am located in Indianapolis, I invite you to join me in acknowledging the Miami, Delaware, Potawatomi, Shawnee, Wee, and Kickapoo communities, their elders both past and present, as well as future generations. Thank you. Now we'll get our program started with panelist introductions, and I'd first like to invite Elysian Kogelmeyer from Artwork Archive to introduce herself, and then take over introducing our additional panelists and get our presentation started. Thanks, Elysian.
Oh, no, thank you, Charity. And thank you for the wonderful introduction. I'm so impressed by your and AM's commitment to accessibility. And so I really appreciate that. So I am Elysian McNiff Kogelmeyer. And to follow suit, I am fair skinned and eyed with red hair, and I am sitting in my home office, and behind me is many, many books, which I need more time to read, and my father's painting of a couple on a hill overlooking the water. And so speaking of my father, a little bit about me. I am on the Artwork Archive team. Charity gave a great intro of who we are. I'll get into that in a little bit. I am the daughter of artists, art therapists, art educators. So I have been in the arts and cultural heritage since the beginning of my career. When I graduated from Middlebury College, there's a banner over my shoulder. I have been working in the arts sector since graduating. So as a curator, working within museums, working within public art, managing a public art program, creating online art classes, and then eventually landing myself in Denver, Colorado, where I am on the Navajo lands, to acknowledge that as well. And at Artwork Archive, I am the head of growth, and I have the wonderful opportunity of working with collecting institutions from all over the world, museums very much included, which we will focus on here. And I also work with our artists and our collectors. And my job is to share out our wonderful resources to connect with you all. So here we are doing this webinar today, and we have other webinars on the Artwork Archive platform, as well as a blog if you all are interested. More that I'll get into at the end. So with that, I'll love to jump into this presentation. Let me just share my screen. And introduce our other panelists. So I'm going to take a break from speaking and let Jennifer jump in and introduce herself.
I'm Jennifer Collins Mancour. I've been an arts administrator for the last 25 years, but I actually was trained as an artist. I attended school at Columbus College of Art and Design and studied illustration. But I am currently, and I've worked as the executive director of various arts organizations, working to support artists. And currently I work as the registrar for Spelman Contemporary, but previously I was the visual arts coordinator at Arts and Health at Duke University Hospital. Hal?
All right. I'm Hal Stringer. I am the founding chair of the Winter Park Paint Out. We'll talk a little bit later about what a paint out is. I've actually been organizing these art events since 2005. In addition, I'm a collector of, my partner and I collect Central Florida, Florida-based landscape art, and I use Artwork Archive as both a collector and an event manager. So hopefully we can share our, what we've learned with y'all today. Thank you very much for having me. You're muted.
Of course I am. Like I've been doing these for 3+ years. Thank you, Hal. Okay, great. So I was just saying, here's where I'll speak a little bit about Artwork Archive, since we are the co-presenter with AMM. So like Charity mentioned, we are an online art collection management system used by artists, collectors, and organizations to help them organize, manage, and showcase their artworks. A little bit about how we work with museums. We've actually had a number of museums in the past few years due to COVID coming to our platform because of our online access, since we are accessible from any device, anywhere online. And museums, as we are going to speak to today, needed virtual tools to keep the boat afloat. And so a big piece of that is bringing their collections online to make them accessible, not only for colleagues and staff to keep everything functioning, moving forward, but also to connect with audiences, whether new or very close with your VIP members. So with that, I was really excited to have this topic because Jennifer and Hal use Artwork Archive for their fundraisers and for their online exhibitions, etc., which they'll get into. And Hal and Jennifer are always two best case examples that I always use when speaking with other organizations. So excited for you all to learn from them and their wonderful case studies. And along with that, we'll also be sharing some others. A lot of words. Oh, and apologies. My previous slide, I was just showing a screenshot of Artwork Archive's database. So we have one from the phone to show you how you can access it from your phone. And then a larger screenshot, which shows an object record with a painting that outlines all the details that can be saved within your database. So apologies, I skipped to the back slide. Now to the next slide, a lot of text speaking to the benefits of fundraising online. So to those that are already doing this, you may already be nodding your head to some of this. For those that are interested in exploring and into the realm of virtual fundraisers, hopefully you will see these benefits. And so, just at a glance, you can increase artwork sales, solicit monetary gifts when bringing your fundraisers online to help meet your fundraising goals. You can expand your reach, so you're no longer limited by physical space. You can reach beyond your walls. And that's also just the case with exhibiting online in general, bringing your programming online. With that, you can also grow your digital audience, so get more visits to your website and to your fundraisers from near and far. You're not subject to geographic limitations. You can scale back on resources, so less need on staff, rent, whatever it may be that goes into physical fundraisers and programming. You can enrich your engagement. So whether it's online voting for artwork favorites, which we have an example later down the road, or responding to inquiries about particular pieces, you can connect with your audience in a new way when you're doing so online. You can also make your fundraising more resilient, so you don't have to be reliant on in-person foot traffic. And it's not just the pandemic that slows things down. You know, things get canceled because of weather. We have the rise of natural disasters happening. You know, there's just impediments that are in our way. And so this way you can make your fundraisers more resilient. And lastly, you can make your processes more sustainable. You can make your collaboration easy by accessing your information anywhere at any time. And sustainable can be, you know, eco-friendly, but also sustainable, meaning that your institution, your processes, your workflow, your staff's mental health can continue on for years to come, right? And a plug for AAMGAC Alexandra is on this webinar. They have an incredible conference coming up in June about sustainability in museums, academic museums and galleries. So here I have a great quote from Hal. This is where I want to hand it over to Hal to speak to his winter park paint out, an incredible best practice about how to extend and expand your event's reach with online tools. The quote says, Hal, I'm just going to speak for you before you speak, I guess. With Artwork Archive, we were able to expand and extend the reach of our event and art sales, and the intuitive user face allowed our event intern and volunteers to manage the online gallery with minimal training. This is also a time in which I want to pause and say, you know, Hal and Jennifer and myself, we're speaking to Artwork Archive as the database, but hopefully these best practices, these tools, the learnings that you're taking away from this, the cautionary tales, they don't have to be reliant on Artwork Archive as a database. You can take this back to your institution with whatever you are working with, or a database that you are interested in the future. So just want to make that clear. We're using Artwork Archive as an example, but for sure, you know, all of these can be translated to other CMSs. So with that, Hal, I'll let you get into your example.
All right, thank you, Elysian. So real quick, the Winter Park Paint Out, so you know what we'll be talking about. It's actually a fundraiser that we have every year for the Pelagic Museum and Sculpture Garden here in Winter Park, Florida. We're just north of Orlando. Matter of fact, we just completed our in-person portion, which ended on Saturday. So if I'm a little bit exhausted, I apologize. During the week, we have 24 artists who come and paint on property or in the community. They will do, I think actually this year they did over 240 paintings. All of those paintings are then hung in the museum. We sell those paintings with a portion of the proceeds going to the museum. So it's really, it's in a way, it's an art sale. The big difference between a paint out and an art festival is typically art festivals, the artists have completed the works in their studio and then brought them for a 2-day or 3-day sale under a tent. Here, the artists bring nothing and over the course of the week, create all the artwork that we sell. So it's both a art sale as well as a learning experience for the community. In addition to the sales, we also have free painting demonstrations. We do a paint-in on a lake where everybody paints the sunset at the same time. We have several different dinners and we have a big gala party. So in addition to funds from the artwork sales, we also have financial sponsors and we also get ticket revenue. So when you look at the event, there's multiple components to it. The Artwork Archive has really helped us on the sales side and with the artwork. That's been really great, and also with community involvement. So Elysian, if you'll do the next slide. More text. We were doing pretty much in-person event, and then what really happened was in 2020 when the lockdowns hit, they hit right before our event was scheduled. So what we had to do was we decided we had to do a virtual event, and we basically contacted our artists. We had literally just weeks to do this. And so we contacted our artists and we said, send us images of work that you already have in your studio that we can sell. Send us the information about that work, the prices, and then our curator was able, we got the Artwork Archive platform set up and integrated into our website. We then had all of that uploaded by our into the artwork archive system, into the cloud by our curator. And then we were able to display it online to our customers, to our members and the public. One thing we did that was useful if you do this kind of event, we actually went through, we had about 400 paintings in the virtual version. And what we did was we actually went through and sort of categorized them. I'll show you later in sort of collections. Ones that dealt with pictures of the museum, or ones that were tree, water and lakes, things like that. And then we sent emails around each. We sent about 8 emails over the following month, highlighting both artists and curated selections to our members. And then they were able to keep that in front of them for that month, and they and help them select and purchase artworks. So it worked really well. We had good sales. Of course, the problem with the purely virtual version is we had fewer sponsors and we're unable to have the garden party, so we didn't have that ticket revenue. And if I can have the next slide, please. So this year, last year, actually, we returned back to our in-person event. It worked really well. We did post the artwork online using Artwork Archive, but we did not really push the artwork in a virtual way other than have it online for folks to look at. We did have folks contact us about the artwork when they would see it. This year, however, and I don't have results yet, but this year, however, what we're going to be doing is, in addition to the in-person event, we are also going to do a month-long virtual exhibit and sale. So we are hoping to combine the 3 revenue sources from the in-person event with the virtual. So that will allow us to extend the event both in terms of time and also in terms of distance, because people from other parts of the country can see the artwork that's online. This morning, I finished, as a matter of fact, finishing up our curated selections, and built those this morning and got that all done. So I can show you those this evening today if you'd like. We'll be sending out the emails on that through the month of May coming up. And once the way we work that is in person, of course, we handle the sale at the museum, and that the patron can take the work home with them. In this case, they will look at it online, they can contact the museum, and then we will make sure it's still available from the artist, and then process the sale and have the artist ship them the work. So that's kind of the way it works. Alicia, do I have a second to show? Oh, okay. Oh, you're there.
Yeah, I got
you. We actually, this is our Paint Out website. If you scroll down there, the portion there where you see the paintings, and by the way, as we sell paintings, we can mark them and they automatically show up online as sold, so that our online and our in-person customers know what's available. What you see there in terms of the pictures and that is all provided by Artwork Archive. We actually use it as sort of a back end to manage all of the artwork and all of the sales information. We take that and then embed that inside our WordPress website, so that we can use WordPress to capture visitor statistics. And then over here, click on Liquid Landscapes right there. This is one where we've actually embedded a collection. You can actually embed artist information, an artist example, or a collection, or an exhibition. These are all ones that we said, these look like, lakes, rivers, whatever. And then you can click on individual painting and it will take you directly to that. In this case, because we're going to be using these collections for sale, they only contain unsold works at this point, because we are going to want to encourage our patrons and members to purchase works that are still available. You're welcome to go to the website. It's winterparkpaintout.org and look around. We actually, one other thing I'll mention, if you go towards the very bottom there, Alicia, and see the Paint Out archives, go back up. We actually have every single painting we've ever had, over 3,000 paintings in the 14 years we've run this event. we've taken photos and captured all the paintings from the last 14 years. So you can see all of those here in our site as well. This is all also run by Artwork Archive.
Yeah, and I also want to call out two other things that I love that you all do. One is that you also embed the artist pages.
Yeah.
And so this way you can click in and learn more about the artist, go to our website, see more of the artworks. And then to the point earlier, showing more than what's just available in a 4x8 gallery space. You can show more work, you can show bigger work. And the other thing is one of the collections that you have is, I forget the name of it, but it's essentially small works and focusing on small work.
Right.
And so creating an accessible entry point for someone who may want to support the museum or participate or buy art, but they don't have thousands of dollars to give. And so making sure, you're cultivating those early donors, or maybe those hesitant or reserve donors that may not just have as big of a pocketbook, but getting them engaged and feeling ownership.
If I could just add one thing, the information you see on the screen right now, the picture of the artist, her name and hometown and website, little artist statement, all of those paintings, every bit of that is hosted through Artwork Archive. And so we can change all of that as needed. If we sell a painting, we can update it, and it also shows up here automatically. We don't have to go into WordPress and manage all of these individual pages. It's all done automatically. So it makes it real easy, and our interns and volunteers can help us do this.
Yeah, that's one thing we've heard is it's great to have your inventory, your database connected to your public facing portal itself. Especially on your website. So thank you, Hal. Thank you so much. And hopefully there'll be some great questions coming down the pipeline for you. I would love to jump into our next wonderful panelist, Jennifer. Here again, I'll speak for you now before I intro you. So I love this quote as well, because we're talking about fundraisers, right? And so for the Arts and Health program at Duke University Hospital, they were able to triple their art sales with their online exhibition. And so Jennifer shared that with their online presence, they were a lot more successful than they thought they could be. And now they're busting at the seams and they are too successful. So so Jennifer, tell us more about how you're so successful.
I guess there's really no real true successful, because I mean that's what everyone wants, but we just were not expecting the giant response that we had. So just to give you a little background, Arts and Health was first established in 1978 by Doctors James Siemens and Wayne Rundles, and each of those doctors had personally witnessed how the arts made positive impacts on the well-being and recovery of their patients. And so they sought to provide visual, literary, and performance arts to patients at no cost system-wide. So today, Arts and Health provides participatory and passive arts experiences for patients, families, and staff. And what we provide there is solely intended to offer an enjoyable distraction from their current situation. And although we're part of the larger university system, we're allocated a small budget, so we really heavily rely on grants and financial support by donors. As part of the visual arts program, we manage a permanent art collection of about 3,500 pieces. These pieces have been secured either by donation or purchase by the hospital and are typically not made available for resale. In addition, we curate and manage sales for 5 different galleries within the hospital campus that feature work of approximately 60 different artists a year. And although we don't take a commission, we do ask exhibiting artists to make a donation back to the program based on their sales. Prior to 2020, Arts and Health struggled with a collection management system that was adequate, but it did not allow for the growth that we had envisioned for ourselves. So in March 2020, when COVID-19 restricted all non-essential staff, visitors, and families from the hospital, it afforded us the time to research various systems to find one that would suit our growing needs. And specifically, we were looking for a system that would, 1, allow multiple users at no additional fee, in order for us to share collection information across a growing healthcare system. And two, provided public access to our large permanent collection and rotating exhibits now that COVID had restricted them completely. We researched about 8 different collection management systems which specialize in gallery and institutional collections. And we interviewed institutions using those systems. And we finally went with Artwork Archive, and we have never regretted it. After we started sharing the public access portal to our rotating exhibits in January 2021, our sales essentially doubled. In fact, we were so busy with the success of the rotating exhibits program that all the plans that we had for our permanent collection had become secondary. Another opportunity that revealed itself was that we could now use the system to manage an annual fundraising exhibit event, one in which we struggled for the past 6 years. With this event, we curate and sell approximately 500 craftsmen and artisan-made items within a 10-week period. And using the features that were now available with Artwork Archive, we could do everything in one program. We could upload and track inventory, allowing our artists to upload their own inventory, document all the sales and buyers, which would eventually become potential donors, generate reports for artists and hospital administration. But more importantly, we are now able to publicly feature the entire available inventory in real time, quickly respond to purchase requests, facilitate sales from both inside and outside the hospital campus, and more accurately track donations to our program. And although restrictions still remain at the hospital, I mean, you can't just come in there. We still don't allow visitors, and only staff and patients and small small number of family are allowed. But Arts and Health, they continue to share their collections and with the audiences outside their walls, and are working now to highlight permanent art collection pieces, specifically works that have been donated, because now they can actually be able to show their appreciation that is far more reaching than just and interactive than just a plaque beside the work inside the walls. So that's it. And I look forward to answering any questions.
Wonderful, thank you. So Jennifer, I didn't click through, but your first slide shows a screenshot from your website.
Yeah, just the one at the panel on the left is just a kind of a static image of our website, and then the 2 images on the right-hand side just kind of show you. The top image just shows you a piece from our permanent art collection and how you can actually show it in its environment. And then the lower image is actually from a rotating exhibit.
And then the next screenshot.
The next screenshot is just, this shows how we were able to basically, this shows part of the inventory from our system, and how we can track all of our sales. And there's lots of really great fields that you can pull to get really very specific reports generated. And Alyssa, I have to tell you, in my current position as registrar for Selman Contemporary, we do use a different collection management system, and I have to say it is not as let's see, it has very rigid, it still has a very rigid framework. Your Artwork Archive I've found to be a lot more manipulative and give us the information that we need far more easily than any other systems that I've worked with.
Great, thanks.
And this just shows you one of our permanent art collection pieces that was a donation. I wasn't able to really screenshot the whole page of this, but further, if you actually visit our page here, at the bottom, you can scroll down and actually find out all the information about this Calder work and how it was, who it was donated by.
Yeah, let's do that. So if I go into collections.
So if you go into collections and see the, hospital public sculpture, and then the Calder, just click on, and then you'll be able to scan down and see some of we even went ahead and included some of our restoration images from our restoration, just to show that we're good stewards of these artworks for the donors, for the patrons.
And shameless plug, I'm
Yeah.
actually doing a webinar through Artwork Archive on May 26th about conservation and maintenance for museums and public
I love
art.
it.
So,
I love it. I mean, that's how we schedule our maintenance for that piece. Is, you know, there's a really great module in Artwork Archive where you can actually schedule all your maintenance for the works, I love the fact that it brings up a task list for you every week of what needs to happen.
And I also wanted to show, so Winterfest is the example that I often speak to, and it was the exhibit that you mentioned with all of the works that come through, especially with craft, right? There tends to be more multiples, et cetera. And so again, with works that have accessible price points to get people in and engaged, which is great. But I wanted to click in and show around, because one of the things that is a differentiator in virtual fundraisers is, you know, how to encourage the contribution and the engagement monetarily wise, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there are two differences. So how I believe if people are interested in works online, they contact you, the museum, and then the museum coordinates the purchase, taking the credit card information, the check information, coordinating with the artist to ship out the artworks, versus Duke, you include a purchase link, which then sends a purchase inquiry into your Artwork Archive inbox. Right. And you can, there's also a PayPal embed for institutions at PayPal. And so buyers can buy directly, and that's updated in the inventory. But did I speak correctly to both of your two institutions, the ways that you collect funds in?
Correct. Yes.
Yep.
And what it allows us to do is Arts and Health, even though we manage the sales of all the artworks that we exhibit, we are not allowed to process credit cards or debit cards. And so having this link and having this availability to provide payment information for each artist actually helps our sales immensely, because typically we're only able to accept cash and check. But now that we have this opportunity to provide them a link to an e-commerce system, I think that's a lot of the reason why our sales had increased as much as they did.
That's great.
And we, you know, our situation, we actually have people call in first. Most of our staff is in the gallery working or on the grounds of the museum getting ready for another event. And so we're not able to necessarily get emails. And because of the way we sell, it's possible that someone maybe want to try and buy a piece, and we haven't had time to show it as sold yet because the paperwork hasn't, we just haven't had the, you know, it's been an hour. We've had situations where somebody's called in, asked about a piece, and then they call back later to decide because they want it and it was already sold. So we need that sort of physical confirmation by somebody that the piece is still in the gallery and available before we actually take a credit card.
And that's a great tip to just showcase here, is that, you know, when you dabble in virtual fundraisers, especially if they are in concert with a physical show, you may run the risk of selling artwork twice. And a lot of institutions during the pandemic had that, before, rather, I should say, if they were bringing their collections, their artworks online. And so a great way to put a stop to that is within your virtual presence, creating some sort of connection point that isn't an immediate sale. So it doesn't go directly to, you know, like an Etsy or whatever it may be, like an online shop. So for Hal, you know, it's the phone call or the inquiry, the written note. For those that are connecting via Artwork Archive's public profile, which is what I'm showing right now, which is what Duke uses. It's that purchase button actually just sends a message to your artwork archive account so you can see it. And then you can, before creating an invoice, selling the artwork, you can check, is it indeed available? Was it sold somewhere else? And then the good news too is you have just created a connection with that buyer. And so now you have their contact information, their interests. And so again, connection building, creating connections with humans is such an important part of fundraising, and to not lose sight of that. So we really want to get into the questions. Charity has a lot of great questions. So I'm going to click through my slides really quickly. It's kind of like the vegetables. We gave you some dessert beforehand with Hal and Jennifer's great examples. I wanted to get into the, like the how, like how you can set this up and the tools that are available to you for virtual success. So I mentioned the public profile. That is a part of Artwork Archive. If your database, your CMS has this public portal, you can make your inventory accessible. What HAL does is goes one step further. In the Winter Park Paintout, they actually take their inventory and they embed it onto their website with one line of code. And I've heard really great responses about this, just this public presence. It helps with SEO keywords when people are searching for artists that are included in your collection or in your fundraisers. Your institution will come up. The New Mexico State University said that once they turned on their public profile, within a week, they saw a huge boost to visits to their website, and they hadn't changed anything else. There were no other variables changed. And so they saw that direct correlation with just creating another presence online. And then with Hal and Jennifer's examples, you're streamlining, constantly streamlining. This way you don't have to be reliant on your IT, your webmaster, especially if there can be sometimes a gatekeeper. So this way, all the information, your new exhibits can be updated at the ready. We talked about online exhibits, those were the two great examples that Hal and Jennifer shared, but I really wanted to drill home that, you're reaching out rather than just bringing in, right? And so again, pandemic thoughts, I'm a mother of a toddler, and even before the pandemic and during the pandemic, it's really hard to get out. There's time restrictions, there's childcare restrictions, and I may not be able to go to openings as readily as I could before. And so virtual creates access. It also creates access to those that may not necessarily feel welcomed or comfortable or feel invited into a hospital, right? The selected audiences that go in. So really love that.
And Alicia, if I could just add that when you talk about expanding it, a fundraiser, it's not just in terms of expanding it in terms of distance, but in our case, what we're doing is we're expanding it in terms of time. We're going from a 1 week exhibit to actually a 5 week, 1 week fundraiser to a 5 week fundraiser, where 1 week of it is in person and 4 weeks of it is virtual. So it expands it both temporally as well as geographically. I think that's an important component as well.
I think that's great. Yeah. And on this great point, and with the earlier slide, which I was speaking to benefits, I mentioned that virtual can take less resources, yes. But for those that are just jumping into it, it can seem overwhelming, daunting, new. And so one thing that can help take a lot of time and admin off of your plate, if you want to try this, Jennifer alluded to it, she spoke to it in an earlier slide. With Artwork Archive, you can have artists upload artworks directly into your account. So if you're doing a call for art or you are standing up a show, physical and or virtual, right? The artist can send the artworks directly into your account. And it's just via a form. So they need to be a contact, which hopefully they should be because you have a relationship with them. But this is great for calls for art. So the artists submit the artworks, all the information. You don't have to worry about email correspondences back and forth. They forgot about an artwork that they're sending over. And there's another email attachment that's most likely going to get lost in the thread. And they can also add and update the contact information. People move, they get married, they get divorced, name change, whatever it may be. So you have all of that up-to-date information within your CMS. So yes, this is a real big time saver, and helps you also either, own the project and save time, or also share this out with others. And so Hal mentioned, they have volunteers. We've seen interns working on projects like this. If you are an academic institution and you want to give a project to students, really great, and have them curate their own show. Another is, some of you may be familiar with online viewing rooms. They are a way to share out a curated body of artwork. And what I saw during the pandemic and continuing on is using what our tool is private rooms, these online viewing rooms, to share out a sneak peek before the virtual. So how do you create that special member VIP experience if you're not having a physical presence and you're not having, like a cocktail hour or whatever it may be? This way, you can send them the artworks beforehand. Maybe they have 24 hours, 48 hours to purchase artworks before it's open to the public. And so this has been really popular. It's also a great way for when you're planning to take a step back. You can create private viewing rooms, you curate it from your inventory, you send the link to whomever needs it. So this can be discussing an upcoming exhibition, what artworks, what artists should we consider. An art committee can use this to vote upon artworks. The arrow here, there is a screenshot of the private viewing room, of the private room in which there's artworks. And the artworks are abstract and geometric in nature. And over one image is a heart and a chat icon, because you can, favorite an artwork, say, I really like it, let's bring it in. Or you can make a comment. I don't really love the frame. Is there can they give us something that's a little less gilded, whatever it may be. And so this way you can track communications really easily. So my background, I got my master's in public humanities, which is all about making culture more accessible. So I come from a family of educators. So education, 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 let's not leave that out in our fundraisers, right? Another reason for people to gravitate, to relate to and fall in love with your collection, your institution. So what I'm showing here is a screenshot of one of our reports. It's a portfolio page, and it's just a beautiful report in which you can have this big image. This one is of a vase full of flowers painted in the 17th century. Description of the artworks, provenance information, additional images, history about the artwork. And what I've seen is institutions print these since they're PDFs, laminate them, leave them in the galleries with the artworks for people to learn more about the artist, the process, the artworks, the collection, but you can also send them virtually. So you can send these to the attendees afterwards, to people who have RSVP'd before to pique interest. And then as a sidebar, this is not a fundraiser, but you can also send it to school groups, to professors, to faculty. And then QR codes, another report. QR codes, thanks to the pandemic, have made a comeback. They're really big in the 2000 aughts. But now, thanks to the pandemic, they're everywhere. And what's great is that with a QR code, you're not limited to a label. You're not limited to this tiny little space or a little placard. When people scan the QR code, they can be brought to that public profile. They can be brought to a particular landing page, to your Winter Park paint out URL, how that you have. So people can learn more about, again, the artist. They can watch videos. They can read curator interviews. They can, view a walkthrough of the gallery space, see a time lapse of the artist making the artwork. There is so much information that we can share, and again, help our audiences relate to the work that we are doing, and to connect with it and to make a special connection. And here is a lot of text. It's just getting into the nitty gritty about making online sales easier. We touched upon that when we were talking about, including a purchase link as a gatekeeper versus just having people contact you directly to purchase the artworks. So purchase requests are really helpful. You can also use PayPal integrations with Artwork Archive as an example to process payments quickly. So once you send them an invoice, you get paid quickly. And then you can also create online invoices. So especially if you're a smaller institution and that is going to bog you down or be just another part of the process, when creating a sale within Artwork Archive, you automatically can create an invoice that gets sent out, which is really helpful so that you can get paid faster. I'm moving along to the next slide, which is best practices for virtual fundraisers. And the biggie that I wanted to share out, I'll hand over to Hal, which is about reporting. So, how do you track online traffic if it's not feet in the door and you're not, counting click, 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 how many people are entering your gallery. So how do we measure the impact of the digital world? Not only so we have it for our own record, so then we can also report on it when we're applying for grants, and when we're stating the success or the learnings or the shortcomings to our board, to our staff, so we can do it better in the following years. So Hal, if you want to quickly go through this slide.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. The tracking, when we went from in-person to virtual, a lot of the grant applications we had required us to provide some kind of indication of traffic or people who attend the event. So the best way we could do that was using Google Analytics. And in order for us to do that, that's part of the reason why, one of the big reasons we embed all of these into our existing website, because we have Google Analytics for winterparkpaintout.org. And so we know which artists they're going to see, which pages for which artists, we know what parts of the website they're visiting. We get all of that information. So by embedding the collections or the artist pages within our own website as code, that allows us to collect those. And it's really important to have that. If you don't, then you really have no way to track how people, how many people do actually visit there. I think when you look at when you're looking for an online service, a cloud-based service, that's one of the things you want. Can you embed it in your own system? If you don't have the IT support to do that, clearly you need to go with something that has a public profile already provided, which Artwork Archive does. But embedding is what, and for us also, it provides a consistent user experience across all of these exhibits.
Love that.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to mention, this slide has a lot of links. So Charity, I believe we'll be sending out the slides because we have some great examples. And here are a lot of articles. There's so much we can talk about when it comes to best practices about fundraising online. So we have some articles here linked. But I also wanted to make sure that we save time for questions because Charity has a lot of great ones. So Charity, would you like to jump in here?
Everybody can see is good. All right, well, thank you. What a lot of great information. Actually, I was kind of going through my list of questions and I was like, oh, we kind of answered that one and that one. I do want to say for folks who are tuned in today, if you had questions for our group, feel free to drop them in the chat or the Q&A. We'll try to work those in the time we have remaining here. One sort of quick question, well, maybe it's quick. I feel like, maybe in the beginning of the pandemic when things shifted quickly, you may not have had big dreams, but maybe going into the next year or this year, you had some big dreams as you thought about virtual. And I'm curious if there's something that you really wanted to do that you just couldn't pull off, and maybe you were limited by your budget or other factors. But was there anything you wanted to do but you couldn't? Any dreams left on the table?
Sure, I can speak about ours. I mean, basically, we had the big dreams before the pandemic hit, but we didn't have the time to slow down time enough to really make it happen. So actually, the pandemic worked in our favor. It allowed us to really make the changes that we wanted to make, and we ended up saving money from our pre-CMS system. So when we made the change to Artwork Archive, so the only thing that we weren't able to do is because, like I said, we were so successful with the rotating exhibits that we weren't able to. We initially had chosen to make the change because we really wanted to bring more attention to our permanent art collection. But then when we saw how successful it was with the rotating exhibit, it had to go on the back burner. So that's the one thing that I really wish that we had been able to spend more time on, but we're slowly getting there. But it's just, after 40 years of collecting artwork, it's just going to take a while.
That's great. Thanks, Jennifer.
And I think for our event, we actually had so little time between the sort of shutdown and when we are actually going to happen, just getting the show, getting the artwork up and the artwork sales component online, that little bit, just getting that was pretty much all we had the time to do. Later, I noticed some paint outs later, they took their artist demonstrations. We usually do about 10 during the event. They took those and actually found a way to have those done via Zoom or some online recorded it and posted it. So one of the things I'd like to see us do in the future is to try and get those so that you pull more of the in-person content into the event. And then just the other thing I would mention is that when we are selling the work online, the pictures need to be better than we did this year. So best practices, if you're going to be selling art online, figure out how to get, that's my goal for next year, is figure out how to get all of these images to be as realistic and show up online as get really quality photos of everything we're going to be selling. So I think that's important too, to help make sure that the buyers and the patrons are, see it properly and are happy when they receive the picture shipped to them, painting shipped to them. So yeah, those are kind of some things to work on now.
I have something to follow up on it as a patron and a museum member. I think that one of the things that's lacking within virtual fundraisers, or there could be more of, is the personal connection. So meeting other people with like interests, the networking opportunities. I'm an extrovert, so I like going to these events and mingling and meeting people. And so Hal, to your point with having a Zoom presentation with an artist, are there also Zoom opportunities or virtual opportunities for people to meet and gather and to connect over shared interests?
Great. I saw a question come in from the chat here. How are your organizations getting the message out, Ari, your exhibits, sales events, beyond your existing mailing lists? And maybe you're using Artwork Archive for that to push that out, but maybe you're using other systems.
So I'll go ahead and respond. We do have a newsletter that we send out about every 2 weeks that has all of the links to our exhibit in it, with live links to what's still available and what has sold so far. And Duke, has a fairly large communication system. So we do post things internally, because, like I said, the restrictions are as they are, and we don't want to create any dissatisfiers. We aren't really doing anything outside of those systems as far as communications and marketing.
Okay.
And then from our perspective, we have our own sort of members and mailing list. But I think it's important when you do a virtual fundraiser, it's more than just let's put it online and hope people show up. You do have to maintain their interest. So that's why we're doing this in the coming month. We'll be doing an 8 or 10 email campaign over the next month that will highlight specific artists in each issue of the email, or and one or more of the collections, so that it and talk about it so that it continues to keep the community's interest. We've also because this is a visual event because of the paintings, a lot of that and the artist painting is all posted on, we continue to post on Facebook and Instagram. So we're doing a lot through our social media, which reaches other people that aren't on our list. So I do think it's important that you continue to make sure that that stays in front. And by the way, we do probably a lot of social media in the week, in the month or two before the event, so that everyone's aware of it. We highlight a different artist each post, So that, and we always include links that say to view the purchase, the artworks for sale. So it's important that you sort of prep folks for it. And then every time anybody comes in the museum, we tell them, if you can't come back tomorrow, look at our website, you'll see the art that's been turned in. So, it's constantly reinforcing that online component.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of that, to making sure that your institution is not the only one sharing it, you're having the artists that are participating
Yes,
announce it in
definitely.
their newsletter, their social media, have your board shared out. So I'm on the art selection committee at my local children's hospital, and whenever we have a new exhibition, we all share it through our channels and our networks. And so making sure you're having that trickle effect, especially within
Correct.
social media and shares. And then the one thing just to quickly note too, within Artwork Archive, I mentioned it quickly, all public profiles, we do have a public presence, are hosted on our discovery platform, which is a part of our website. And so that's where, SEO traffic drives people to there. Sorry about that, Ding, that was me. But also, if people are searching the discovery platform, then your institution, your exhibitions can come up.
I know we've just got a couple of minutes left, so this next question is going to be a little bit of a quick one, just to give everybody a kind of a sense of maybe what changed about your patron or donor mix. I don't know how much information you have about them, what they look like before, who was buying the art previous to your virtual fundraisers, and then what's that look like now? And if you could just offer a couple, sort of descriptors, maybe some information you have about demographics and how that changed would be great. Hal or Jennifer?
Hal, you go first.
Okay, well, what I will say is, by having it online, this is just I've noticed from this week, when we had our in-person exhibit because we actually post online during that in-person, during that week. So what I found this year was more of our artists collectors looking. So they had either been, the artist had either let the collector know to come look, but anyway, they were coming to our website to see what had been turned in by that artist that day, and they would follow it, and then they would call us and purchase paintings over the phone. That they're, so I think that what's good is we've been getting by using the virtual, we are getting a wider geographic audience, and we are also getting access to the artists' actual collectors, who are more likely to purchase their art, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
I think for us, I think for us, the what's changed has been that we're now reaching people outside of our walls. And so a lot of these people, like Elysian, spoke to, were like professional groups that some of these artists might belong to, or their friends might belong to, who are sharing the exhibits and the events outside of the Duke system. And so I literally will meet people on the side of the road because they're not allowed to come into the hospital. I'll meet them on the side of the curb to sell them a piece of artwork. So, so it's hard to think about what demographic it is particularly, but I would say a lot more professional groups, a lot more, affiliated membership groups that our artists might be part of.
Great. Wonderful. Well, I know we're at time, and I'm conscious of the fact that we have an interpreter here with us today, so I don't want to go too far over. I want to thank you all for your participation in the panel today, and for sharing your stories and experiences with online fundraisers. Elysian, thank you for helping and introducing us to Hal and Jennifer today, and sharing their stories. I will say that we will follow up with the recording later, and it will be shared out to our broader network as well, and on social media. If you have questions, I'm sure that I know Elysian dropped her email into the chat, but we can share contact information for our presenters as well. If you want to follow up for anything that you didn't get answered today, I'm sure folks will be happy to touch base with you one-to-one. I think that's it. I'm going to just have us wrap up here. Any final words or thoughts from our panelists before we go?
No, just if anyone has any more questions that they think I might be able to help with, they're welcome to contact me.
Great. Thanks, Jennifer.
Same. And just remember, virtual doesn't necessarily mean it has to be complicated.
Yeah, that's great.
I love that. Hopefully we hear sighs of relief across the country. Not
Yeah.
next. But yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for joining and following along. And the Artwork Archive team, myself included, especially, always excited to share out best practices. And so this webinar was a wonderful opportunity. Thank you, Charity. Thank you to the AMM team. But also, if you all are interested, Artwork Archive is a blog. We upload all of our webinars that we host to a webinars page. We have free e-guides. And then if you're working with artists and collectors, we also have educational resources for them too. So, let's keep spreading the good word of all that we can do to help support our incredible institutions.
Yeah.
Elysian. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesdays, and
thank you, Emily.
Future programs.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.